Back for another episode of the Martial View then, guys, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome Ricky Lam to the show. Hi, Ricky. How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. You're very welcome. First thing I've got to say, fantastic body transformation. I've been following you on Facebook, and wow, that is impressive, sir. What kind of made you commit to that?
Well, I said that in my post, I think, where I was talking about how my training has always been very consistent, you know, martial arts, going to the gym, doing conditioning, but then I just thought that I could eat whatever I wanted, to be honest. And so that's what I did for a long time, just train hard and just eat whatever I wanted. But then I hit like 40, 42 now, and I realized that it doesn't work that way anymore. You know, at 20 years old, you can train hard and eat a big, massive chocolate cake and you'll be fine. But it doesn't happen now when I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
And also in terms of energy levels and things like that as well, we got to be a little bit more aware of that. So during the lockdown, there was a lot of obviously comfort eating, home cooking, experimental cooking and stuff like that. And I put on a little bit of weight. And I decided that, you know, I needed to make a change because coming out of the third lockdown, I knew I set all my goals for the rest of the year. And I knew that I'm going to need a lot of energy to do what I want to do, lead the team. So, you know, obviously that all starts with your body and mind. And I thought, you know, let's just go for it. And plus I love a good challenge as well, a physical and mental challenge.
Yeah, it's amazing. So did you find it like a difficult thing to kind of get into the routine of was it more the nutrition or the training side that you found?
Definitely. You know, like guys like me and you know, we're training for most of our lives. Training's training, you know, it's what we do. It is definitely the nutrition part that was really difficult because it's quite was, for the lack of a better word, quite an aggressive way to cut weight.
Yeah.
But you know, as my coach says, you know, like as Johnny said, you know, cutting weight's never nice, so you might as well do it as fast as possible and then
let's go all in.
Yeah. So I did find that was definitely the hardest part. I mean, by the time we got to the last 4 weeks, I was on about 1,200 calories a day. But obviously, I was still training, you know, doing the gym work, the BJJ, kickboxing. It was still happening, but on 1,200 calories a day. So
putting your body in a big deficit there, then.
That was a huge deficit. Yeah, that was a huge deficit. But I got the results in the end, and now I'm back up to this week. I'm actually double that now. I'm on 2,400 calories a day, and I've been slowly increasing it for the last 4 weeks.
Okay.
And now, but I have hardly put on any weight, so you know that's great.
What's the next stage then? Are you going to maintain? Are you going to bulk? Are you going to try and shred more? Or
no? So what's happening now is we're just trying to find my maintenance point.
Yeah,
I reckon we'll find it in the next couple of weeks because it's 2,400. I personally think that my maintenance is about 2,700. So we have a couple more weeks to play with and see what happens, and then just try and stay there for as long as possible, really.
Perfect. Sounds good. So turning more to the martial arts kind of thing then, you've been involved in martial arts all of your life, really, aren't you? And you come from a martial arts family, is that correct? So it's like fourth generation martial artist.
Wow, you've done your research. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, as you said, fourth generation martial artist. My great granddad was a martial arts kung fu sifu in Hong Kong. Same with my granddad and also my dad as well. And over I guess the funny thing is we've all taught different systems.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, my great granddad was he did a lot of the old school you know, like internal kind of qigong type you know martial arts, and you know, he would I've had stories of him doing all the spear, you know, bending of the spear with his throat and all that stuff, whereas my dad and my granddad were different styles of kung fu, and obviously I did a little bit. My dad was my first instructor. I have to say it wasn't that enjoyable because it was very old school, you know, like, more like sitting in a horse riding stance for an hour, and that was
horse stance with tea balanced on your knees for hours.
Pretty much. So as soon as there was a chance to go to the local Taekwondo school, I jumped at it. But yeah. So, and hopefully that tradition will carry on with my sons now as well.
Yeah, I saw you were training a lot with them. I saw lots of lockdown videos of you guys working out in the garden and things like that. It looks good, and it must be something nice to pass on to your kids as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, if they didn't enjoy it, then I would make them do it. Well, actually, probably would, but but the fact that they love it, you know, they love what we're doing, and they just can't get enough of it. So it's great to see them enjoy it that much.
Perfect. When did you start thinking about becoming a martial arts instructor then, and kind of making martial arts a big part of your life and a career as well?
I would say almost right. Not when I was started training when I was 6, so it wasn't then. But I reckon round about, I can't remember when the film came out, Best of the Best, but around about 9 or 10 when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah.
And you know, the main character Tommy Lee was there. He had his like Taekwondo school.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be like him one day. So around about that point, I knew most of my life that I wanted to be a martial arts instructor. So you know, I worked towards that in many ways, going to seminars, reading up, you know. But then my other kind of ambition was to work in movies.
Okay.
And so when I, in my early 20s, I went traveling. I ended up in Hong Kong. And when I was there, I was lucky enough to have some small parts in some films over there.
Yeah.
But then through that, I realized that it's not really what I want to pursue. So again, on at 23, 24, I came back and tried to and started, you know, looking at opening my first full-time academy, and I had the first one when I was 24, I believe.
Okay.
And when I was 18, actually, this kind of solidified the whole idea. When I was 18, I went to America for an exchange program, high school exchange program.
Yeah.
And I was training at White Tigers Taekwondo, which is the biggest martial arts school in the world. Well, it wasn't then; it was still in the original school. But I was training with the head instructors, obviously very inspirational.
Yeah.
And that made me, you know, because I wanted to bring that kind of full-time martial arts school to the UK. Yeah. You know, where it's a second home. You know, it didn't look like this. My original school did not look like this. But you know, second home, people can come in and just, you know, they love coming here, seeing their friends. It's not just about training; it's about the whole social aspect as well. So that's what we have now, which is
the community and the culture as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, good. And the Americans just do that so well, don't they? And is that where you kind of got your inspiration from then? Like the likes, like you said, of the White Tiger, people like Bill Clark that were kind of revolutionizing that way of doing martial arts. So whereas traditionally you kind of see it in a village hall or something like that, you pay £5 a class and things like that. But maybe, I don't know, was it the 90s, late 90s maybe, when it started becoming more of a thing in the UK?
Yeah, I think in the late 90s, when guys like Master Kim Stones and Master Stuart Wilts, you know, they kind of brought a lot of the American systems over here.
Yeah.
And in terms of like the different programs and also the full-time academies and stuff like that. So yeah, so it was around about that time, I think, that people started opening full-time martial arts schools. And obviously over the last 20 years, it's evolved into like a career option, I guess, for a lot of people, and also and a good career option. And the standards have, you know, increased in terms of the facilities that are available for people.
Yeah.
You know, I would never dream that I would have had a schools like this, like, you know, and there's a lot of really good looking schools out there as well, that just takes the standard of the martial arts experience for students to the next level. And that's what we want to see. I mean, there's nothing wrong with teaching out of community centers and church halls. I mean, that's where I came from in terms of my training. And also I've taught many years out of that. But it is a very different experience for the instructor and also for the students. And it just is really, you know, down to what you want, you know?
Yeah, 100%. How did you find it then? Is it, you know, a kind of 23, 24-year-old running your own full-time academy? Was it difficult and jumping kind of, well, you're going both feet in, aren't you? It's a big commitment.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I started up, I had about 40 students. And I thought, well, I'm good at teaching Taekwondo because back then that's all I taught. Yeah. I'm good at teaching Taekwondo. So what else is there to know? And then quickly I realized that not only do you need to be a black belt, but you also need to be a black belt in business as well. And I had no idea about any of it. And you know, I remember sitting in fact, one of my first martial arts business workshops that I attended. And it's funny because it was Mr. Barry Vanover, who's like a really, you know, one of my best friends now, my mentor. Yeah. And he was teaching the seminar and I was sat there as this young instructor, and I was quite intimidated, if I'm honest, because a lot of the things he was talking about, I had no idea about, like the marketing and all that. And he just went around the room and was like, okay, you guys, each person, tell me what you did for marketing this week. And he pointed at me, and I was like, oh, I think my answer was I approved the design for my flyer.
Right.
I was like, and I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty good. The design for my flyer. That's quite a lot of activity going on there. And then he jumped to another guy who's obviously been doing this for a while, and he was like, well, I've booked this in, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, and I've done that all in the last 5 days. And I just kind of shrank in my seat, like, oh dear, that's pretty bad. So I had no idea in terms of how to run the business side of it, which is a huge challenge, I think, for a lot of for a lot of martial arts instructors.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, they're passionate about teaching, they're passionate about passing on the knowledge, and but when it comes to actual, I mean, I have so many friends who still teach out of community centers and halls and do pay-as-you-go classes.
Yeah.
And they just find that transition from part-time instructor or hobby instructor to full-time instructor really difficult, because they just feel like they can't ask people for money.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They can't do direct debits for whatever reason. And there's I mean, that's a whole different conversation, but they do find that they're kind of almost like they're selling out if they did that.
Yeah, definitely. And what's your opinion on this kind of, it's been thrown around a lot, like the terms McDojo and selling out, and suddenly, like, if you run martial arts as a business, it's you're kind of watering down the system that you teach and things like that. But you're a great example of someone who teaches well, who inspires their students, who kind of practices what they preach, but also runs a successful business as well. So, what's your thoughts on this kind of thing?
I mean, I hate the term McDojo, just because it kind of, as you said, it makes people think that just because, like, someone like me who has 3 schools, successful schools, and a lot of students, and I have a whole team that helps me teach, then I must have sold out, and the quality of martial arts we teach is rubbish. And that's far from the truth, because we spend, and the key is setting those high standards and maintaining those high standards by team training. We train between 3 to 4 hours a week, every week, on teaching techniques, curriculum review, and just going through and reviewing everything so that the students get their best experience. And we spend a lot of time doing that. And so when people come and say, well, McDojos, you're selling out, well, we're not, because we're actually, if I had a community center school and I was teaching 20 students, then I'm only affecting or empowering 20 students. But because I've invested my time and money into 3 schools, and each school roughly has over 200 students. Well, the new school isn't there yet, but it will do. That's 600 students that's going to benefit from what we're teaching. And my plan is, and the goal is, to have 5 schools by the time it gets to this. Well, not in June next year. My goal is to have 5 full-time schools, and the reason why we're not going above 200 is because we found that that's the optimum number to have in a small school like this. Anything above that just becomes quite difficult to run. But at the same time, it's I like that kind of intimate, kind of personal relationship that each instructor can have with the students.
More one-to-one.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the super school. It was 8,000 square feet. We had over 500 students, but it was, as much as I was super proud because we won a lot of awards, and it was great. Like Saturday morning between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, we had over 150 students come in to train. The waiting area or the hangout area we had, like, at any one time there were like 50 parents there hanging out, having coffee, and all that, and it was really cool to watch. But in the background, it was such a nightmare to run because
chaos.
It was chaos, and I would rather have. And I missed. And when I was looking at that, I was like, I miss having a smaller school where we did have some sort of friendship with the parents. We knew what they did. We knew all the names, and that's what it's all about. That connection and that community that we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah,
and it's almost impossible to do when you have a super school.
100%. You've kind of branched out as well then. So as well as teaching the Taekwondo, you also teach Krav Maga, is that correct?
Yep. So
So when did that start? Yeah.
yeah, so basically, when around about 6 months into running the school, I was having a nightmare from running the school because I didn't know what I was doing. So one of my friends, Paul Andrew Smith, who used to teach Taekwondo in Leeds, he was like, "Oh, we just joined Premier Martial Arts recently, and all the lead instructors are coming to Doncaster just to showcase what they have. You want to come along?" And I was like, "Oh, what's the worst that can happen?" So I went along and I trained with some of the cool instructors there, and I was sold. Like Krav Maga was great. And the funny thing was, around about that time, because I had to pay the rent somehow, and because the school wasn't making enough money, I was working as a doorman.
Yeah.
And I remember the first altercation I had. I was like, "This is not Taekwondo. This is not how we practice." No offense to obviously Taekwondo instructors. I'm a fifth dan in Taekwondo and I love it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to reality-based self-defense, there are obviously more effective and systems out there. But so I was like trying to look for the answers to the questions of what is it that I need to do, and so when that was going through my mind as I went to this Krav Maga workshop at the Premier Martial Arts in Doncaster at the time. And when I did some of the drills, I was like, this was exactly how it felt a couple of weeks ago when I was in that fight. And that got me hooked on just, as I said, I love Taekwondo. I love the kicks and the forms and what goes with it. But when it comes to reality self-defense, that's the stuff that's relevant. That's what's going to possibly save your life one day. And that's why I love teaching what we teach. Instead of we still have what we teach is a hybrid of Krav Maga. Not even, I wouldn't call it hybrid. It's a mixed curriculum of Taekwondo, kickboxing, and Krav Maga. And obviously we use the Krav Maga for the more self-defense part of the curriculum, kickboxing for the sporting side of it, and Taekwondo for mainly the kicks. So it's kind of like the best of all the worlds and put together. Nice. So by the time the students get to black belt level, then they're proficient in all those.
Well-rounded.
Yeah, well-rounded. Yeah, exactly. And also for kids as well. What I found was when I was my aim is always to, as we all are, is to create great students and great black belts. But what I found was I'm not sure if it's due to the lack of attention or just the attention span is not as the way it used to be, maybe because of the video games or whatever it is. Then it was very difficult to get students past the intermediate point in traditional Taekwondo, because it was a lot of repetition, and we know repetition is key, but they don't know that. And so therefore it was a good way to mix the curriculum up and just keep them interested, so that we can turn them into the great black belts in the end, because the magic doesn't happen after a couple of weeks. I mean, obviously there are some big changes that happen initially, but really to get that mental and physical change and transition, it takes a couple of years at least.
At least
before it happened. And what I found was the kids were leaving before that point, and mainly it was because all we did was traditional Taekwondo work. Again, it takes a certain mindset to really enjoy that kind of training, and I still love it, but for the majority of kids out there, it's not really,
not active enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect. How did you kind of cope during the last year and a half or so then, during COVID and having your schools closed down and things like that? What did you do to tackle that, and how is it now?
So initially, obviously, it was quite scary for everybody. But how we always tackle problems, look at it and just look for solutions, focus on the solution rather than the problem. And obviously we, like most schools, we transitioned to Zoom classes immediately. And that worked really well. I ended up writing a module on how to teach great Zoom classes, online classes for the organization for Premier Martial Arts. Because I enjoyed it that much and I put a lot of thinking behind it. And our online classes were that popular that that every night we would get roughly 200 students logging in to train. Obviously not in the same class. So we did that, and and we retained a huge, a lot of our students that way. What we found was the people that left during that point, they were probably going to leave anyway. It was just another thing for them to go.
Just that push to give them over,
Yeah, but the ones who stayed are still with us now, and they're going from strength to strength, because those are the guys that are really bought into what we do, love what we do, and just want to be, a bigger part of it. So yeah, it's funny because between lockdown 2 and lockdown 3, we opened this school,
Right.
which was a bit of a brave kind of decision to make.
Yeah.
But we did that, and we're close to 200 students now here. And off the back of this as well, we're also opening the Bradford branch. So yeah, I would say that the lockdown gave me a lot of time. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy it, but for me, I really did enjoy the time that I had at home. I enjoyed the time that gave me to slow things down and reflect on what I really do want from life and business and training, and maybe reassess everything, and having written my 5-year vision on what I want. Then during that time, I put into action. But then one of my good friends, who is a very successful school owner in the States, Aaron Hinsley, I was talking to him and he said, "I challenge you." I'm like, "Oh, don't say that, because I'm." He says, "I challenge you to turn your 5-year vision into 1-year vision." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to do it now." And that's because my 5-year vision was to open 5 schools within 5 years. He says, "Well, why can't you do it in a year?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Actually, there isn't a reason why I can't do it in a year." Apart from the other, because when you think about opening a school, and this is for, I guess, if there's any aspiring full-time martial arts academy kind of instructors out there, is when you think about the things that you need to open a school, there's no reason why you can't get those things that you need. In terms of like premises, there's always going to be some sort of premises that you can negotiate and get at a good price, an affordable price for most people. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm in London, I can't afford it," but we know a lot of successful school owners in London, so it is possible. And then in terms of staffing, well, you either have people that you've trained up in-house that are probably ready and want to have a career and teaching martial arts, help you teach martial arts. But what I found as well is I've always trying to keep things in-house, but more recently I've been recruiting from outside, externally, and we found some amazing instructors. We found some amazing, highly qualified instructors who love teaching martial arts, who would love to do it for as a career, but never knew how to do it. Not everybody has the mindset to be a school owner, because it has a different level of responsibility and so on. But there are a lot of people out there who are great at teaching martial arts, and all they want to do is that. So when we give people that opportunity to do that, they jump on it and they love every like, for example, we do Parents' Night Off events, and like this Friday, it's Nerf Wars. Nerf Wars, where the parents drop the kids off at 5, they pick them up at 10, and for 5 hours we're playing Nerf Wars, watching the movies, having pizza and popcorn or whatever, and all that cool stuff. And I remember one of our newest instructors, they were like, "I get paid to play Nerf Wars with these kids." I'm like, "Yeah, that's part of your job." It's and it's great. So staffing, facilities. And I guess it's a bit of a bold statement, but finances. If you really want to find that money from somewhere to finance your project, you will find that money from somewhere. So there's no reason really why. And I guess it's just taking that leap of faith from going from a part-time instructor to a full-time instructor. But there are obviously ways that you can do that's less risky. But there's always that risk.
100%, and just having the confidence as well, maybe to just believe in your ability and do it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
What are your plans then for the future? So you've told us the 5-year dream that's moved into a 1-year dream. So now what's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th-year dream?
Well, I haven't actually in terms of, I have other business ideas in the background that's non-martial arts related, just because I want to kind of flex my entrepreneurial kind of muscles a little bit to see how they translate to other businesses, and we're. In terms of the 5 schools, that was the original, but I've enjoyed opening this one so much because of the systems that we have in place. It definitely wasn't as stressful as it used to be when I opened my first school. I would learn from that. And Premier Martial Arts, not to, I'm not, pitching them in any way, but we have a lot of good systems in place that makes opening schools very simple. For example, this school, before we even opened, we had 120 students signed up for memberships. So from day one, we had 120 students before
Yeah.
we started paying rent. You know, so and we're on that way with Bradford. So I want to open. You know, I haven't set the goal for how many schools I want, because it would be at least 5, but we're looking between 5 and 8, maybe, my personal schools. You know,
Yeah.
I want my instructors in the future who work for me to have their own schools. You know, I don't want them, you know, they're all great at what they do, but also I want to be able to create a future for them that's not just working for me, but actually, you know, having their own schools as well at some point.
Yeah.
And then also, we are launching the full Premier Martial Arts franchise in the UK soon as well. And that's going to be a whole, you know, it's in the States. We launched that about 2 years ago, and it's grown to be one of the fastest. It is the fastest growing martial arts franchise in the world, but in the States is also one of the fastest growing franchises across the board in any business.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just, you know, for me, opening these schools gives me opportunity to give all these talented instructors out there who want to teach martial arts and have this as a career but don't know how to do it, a chance to do what they love. You know, that's one of the, and I love working with those guys, because, you know, when we're working on curriculum, there's a lot of banter, there's a lot of brainstorming on different ideas, because we have people coming from, you know, different backgrounds. And it's great to learn from them as well, but also, you know, see the differences, experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
And as I said, you know, so I have those, the Premier franchise launch. We have my own schools, personal schools, mentoring my team members to be able to, from following their own personal dreams and goals, getting them all to a great financial position in life. Like one of my main instructors, Brandon, he started training when he was 6, and now he's 22, and he's about to buy his first house.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I'm really proud of him for that, and I want to be able to do that for you know, for all the other members of staff as well. So just basically keep on doing what I'm doing is the plan.
Perfect. Sounds amazing. Well, always inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. And I'm sure lots of people will take a lot of things out of this, whether they're a student or whether they're a martial arts instructor themselves. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ricky. Bye-bye.
Bye.